Doctors from nearly every nation are using it today, and millions of patients have had eyesight restored. The film Sight, based on my autobiography From Darkness to Sight, that's precisely the fascinating story of Invention amnion membrane contact lens. And some friends said over the years, oh, maybe you're stupid. You did not make any money yourself at all. In the process, I said, well, my answer is I'm not stupid because number one, it's my answer to God's calling for me to do something that to help those who need the most help, blind orphan children, develop technology to help them. And number two, honestly, as a poor immigrant who came to this country with nothing, only $50, I'm very grateful to what America has given me, and I want to do what I can to pay back.
Yeah, that's great. So you mentioned faith. China, from what I understand, is not religious. They're secular, I guess, especially during the time you were there. So how did you come to faith? You came to the U.S., were you an atheist? What happened?
I came to this country as atheist. Richard, have you seen this movie, God's Not Dead?
I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
It's a movie that talks about this campus debate about evidence for existence of God. And it was written by my pastor, Dr. Rice Brooks, who later that was turned into a movie. In that movie, there's a Chinese student who came to America, fighting through Cultural Revolution, came to America with only $50 and as an atheist, and eventually became a believer. And that was me in that film, God's Not Dead. That's
it's about you. That's cool.
Yeah, it's inspired by my life story. So just like that student, I came to this country as an atheist. And then I got my PhD degree in laser physics. And then I was studying in medicine, trying to get my second doctorate degree, this time in medicine. I was studying the human eye structure at the Harvard Medical School in Boston, where I realized that my atheist worldview was in trouble because eye is so complicated, it is just not possible that it can form out of random, as atheists believe. So I kept on asking a professor a question. So he took me out to lunch and he said, what's across the street? I said, there's a car. He said, what's the difference between a car and human eye? I said, human eye is a lot more complicated. He said, okay. Can you imagine a bunch of random piece of metal on the street assemble itself into a car? I said, no way. And he then said, how about human eye? Right there, he opened a window in my life, making me realize that the reason the human eye is so complicated, but yet can form nearly flawlessly most of the time, is because it did not form out of randomness. It was formed with a purpose, and that purpose is for vision. So there's a creator behind it. And going from there to eventually become Christian took me many more years. So America is the nation that giving me the freedom and also faith. Richard, who appreciates sight the most? Those who used to be blind, right? Who appreciate freedom the most? Those who used to not have freedom. So Sight is a movie which will be released on May 24th, Memorial Day weekend, in theaters across North America. It's basically a story of someone who used to be blind to share with all of the sighted folks today in America how precious sight is. Sight, the film, is about someone who used to not have freedom and come to share with us, people here in America who always had freedom, how precious freedom is and do not take for granted. And then you may say, what's the evidence that we are taking for granted the freedom we have in America? The evidence is that we are so polarized. We are so divided as a nation. We're so unwilling to work together across political aisles, racial divides, and ethnic divisions. Then you say, if we forgot, blessing, we take America for granted. That's why we end up to be polarized, unwilling to work together. Correct. It's like husband and wife. If you, always there's a difference between husband and wife, but if you do not appreciate marriage, you're more likely to argue and yelling, shouting, hurting each other. But if you do appreciate marriage, given the same amount of difference, you're more likely to say, honey, I know.
I tell that advice to people that are younger, that have young kids or about to have a kid. I tell them that you got to work together.
Right.
If you don't work together with your wife, then everyone's miserable. So I told them that was one lesson we learned. Our kids are, older teenagers now. But,
Yeah.